Good afternoon and welcome to our all-gas kitchen of the 1920s. At that time, only 6 houses out of every 100 had mains electricity, so all-gas houses were not uncommon. The kitchen here is lit by gas mantles. Like many other inventions, this was the result of an accidental discovery. An Austrian chemist found that certain oxides of chemicals glowed when they were heated by a gas flame. Mantles were first made in 1887, and they are still in use in caravans, etc. today. Electric lighting had become available in the 1880s, and by 1920 it was beginning to make serious inroads into the lighting market. It was the advent of competition from electric lighting which encouraged gas companies to look more closely at the heating and cooking capabilities of gas. The cooker in our kitchen probably dates from about 1925. It could not have been much earlier than this because it features a chromium-plated hob, which was very unusual. On the other hand, it could not have been much later, otherwise such an expensive cooker would certainly have had an oven thermostat or regulo fitted. As you will see later in the museum, the regulo became available in 1923. You will notice that there is no floor in the oven. This may have been to aid the circulation of air. It was not unusual to roast joints of meat by hanging them from butcher's hooks from a rail in the top of the oven. You would appreciate that this had been the normal practice when cooking before an open fire, so, not surprisingly, the gas oven was first used in much the same way. The splashback and plate warming rack were first added in about 1912. Standing on the hob of our cooker, we have, to the left, a toaster. This would toast 4 slices of bread over 1 gas ring. To the right of the toaster is a 3-iron heater. Each iron was used in rotation and replaced when it got cool, so that there were always 2 irons on the heater keeping hot. The alternative to these flat or sad irons, and what an appropriate name, was the gas-powered iron which you see on the table. There was no thermostatic control, of course, but then there were no synthetic fibres either. These gas irons were heavy, and they would have been hot to handle, and not a little smelly. The gas fire to the left of the cooker may seem a little unusual, but in the 1920s it was quite common to have a boiling ring or a flat surface on the top of the fire, either to boil a kettle or to keep the teapot warm. On the plinth above the gas fire, the strange bell-shaped object is a hot water circulator. The water in the bell was heated and it then rose to be stored in a 20-gallon tank upstairs. In 1922, this appliance cost £5, 9 shillings and 6pence, and so it was to be found only in the houses of the better off. In most all-gas houses, all the hot water requirements, except that boiled in the kettle, came from the geyser, which can be seen in our kitchen in the back left-hand corner near the sink. The name geyser, incidentally, is the Icelandic name for the hot water gushers in that country. It was thought to be a suitable name for these appliances when they were first developed in 1868. Sometimes water for the Saturday evening bath was heated in the gas wash boiler, which stands on the floor to the right of the sink. But its prime purpose, of course, was to heat the wash day water. With the old solid fuel wash boilers, wash day often used to start at 5:30 in the morning and finish at about the same time in the evening. With gas, says the advertisement to your left, it's all done before noon. Clearly a big step forward. The implement inside the wash boiler is, of course, a dolly. The refrigerator at the front is actually out of place in a 1920s kitchen because it was probably made in about 1936. If you wish to know how a gas flame can make ice, please see the brief and non-technical explanation on top of the refrigerator. Finally, there are two appliances which will be found only in the best houses. On the table, there are some hair curling tongs. These instruments of torture were in use until well after the Second World War, and it is actually the heater on which they stand which is rather unusual. The row of small jets will be fed by a flexible tube, just like the iron. You then tested the heat on a piece of brown paper or newspaper. If the paper burst into flame or was badly scorched, the tongues were too hot for your hair. Ladies have told me of times when they have pulled the tongues out of their hair only to find tufts of scorched hair still attached to them. Those were the days. To your right at the front is the companion to the tongues, the gas-powered hairdryer. That's right, it's the thing that looks like part of a ship. A flame in the base heats up the air as it passes up the tube. You sit on the chair, put your head back into the outlet, and your hair is dry. Yes, the fumes from combustion and the particles of soot do come up the tube as well, but then you can't have everything, can you? It is, of course, for those very reasons that we would not allow its use today. We hope you've enjoyed your visit to our 1920s kitchen. If you have any questions or comments, please ask the curator and he will try to help.